was sent down to a blue-collar town with a fighting spirit. Some say rebellious, but before it was called Detroit, there was a fortress, Fort Wayne. From these streets, and from within this land, came the auto industry and the Motown phenomenon, which lured many of the lights of the tribe to leave the South for the advertised promise of a good job and a better life. It's also the home of the world's largest masonic temple that sits right smack in the heart of the ghetto, notorious Cass Corridor. It's also the home of Eshawn, the world's first openly satanic Luciferian rapper, admitted influence of Eminem and really every DMC who was a teen in the late 80s. Now, although they say he was born in New York, people consider him an East Sider. Acid rap, horrorcore, and techno, strange cousins of the hip-hop spirit, were also born here. Now, I wasn't born here, but I was conceived and raised here, and both my parents were born here. Now, most folks would still say it was Detroit, but I was born at Providence Hospital near Northland Mall, technically the city of Southfield, right off 9 Mile. Now, I was a good little chubster, merry, inquisitive, creative, and thoughtful. Though my mama said she had a moody child. I was very interested in making friends, and I always walked to the neighborhood school, K through 12. I went to Bagley Elementary, where I won class president and lobbied before the school board, unsuccessfully, however, to try to get us hot lunches that year. 6th grade. The principal, Dr. Porter, told Granddaddy T.R. Jackson he had a preacher on his hands after I did the I Have a Dream speech in 4th grade for a school assembly during Black History Month. I was most close to my paternal grandparents, whom I spent weekends, vacations, and summers with. Now, on the other side, my granddaddy Moss, I called him Ooh-wee. He had picked out a house to be in the same vicinity as his sister, happened to be my Aunt Mattie. And I would be the second of really 4 generations to be raised in that house. Now, both Granddaddy Ooh-wee and Aunt Mattie were movers and shakers, but so were their brothers, James and the Celestials front man, their brother Bill Moss, their sister Sybil. She had Sybil's Cleaners, I believe that was on Davison, for years. Their mother, my great-grandmother, was a preacher who served the children of the community. Now, Mattie and her girls stayed about a 10-minute walk away, not even a mile. We stayed on North Line, and across the street on the corner was a little boy my baby sister would play basketball with in the backyard. His braces cut a scar over her eyebrow when they both went up for a rebound. They clashed, and he's known today as the rapper Big Sean. But before Baby Sis came, this was my environment. Normal young kid from the ghetto, kitty from the city. Huge Bad Boys Pistons fan. Bigger music fan. Boogie Down Bronx was my first record. Ma bought it. Now, Ma, she wrote music, sang lead in a group led by B.B. King's drummer, who lived 2 doors down. The group was called The Unusuals. They pressed the 45. She tried to teach me the piano, but I wanted to go outside and play football and sit still. She had a huge record collection, and I loved to be her DJ. It was one of our most precious and shared moments when she had come home from work, cleaning on the weekend, and she would break out some records, and she'd tell me to put them on. And I would love to put them on. And I got to know those records as I got to know my mama. One day she put in a VCR tape and schooled me about who our cousins were. Just the basics, so I'd know. I went to school and told it and got in trouble. That's family business. I understood it from that point on. At age 13, rebellion sets in. It was starting to show. So for a change of influence and environment, she set it up for me to stay the summer with Nixie Clark instead of the Jacksons as usual. And I didn't protest. I thought it would be a interesting, unique change and experience. Even at that age, I was looking forward to it. When I got there, you couldn't watch no Transformers, no G.I. Joe, or no Thundercats. It was my first exposure to the sanctified church. My mom's, she didn't take me to church, and on the Jackson side, Renaye T.R., he was a member of St. Mary's Catholic Church. We didn't go that often, mostly when I was younger. But I loved it. I loved the sanctified church. I thought it was amazing to see. It was a little scary, to go from not knowing about church besides Catholic Church, which is very sterile, to seeing folks run up and down the aisle, running around the church and catching the Holy Ghost in the flow. But I loved it, and I got to know my cousins, her sons, and we had a ball. Surely something had been loosed off of me during that time that I spent with Cousin Niecy, and I'm always going to be grateful for that. I just remember having very wicked thoughts around that age, 13. And at some point I saw some movie where they said that if you sell your soul, the devil will give you what you want. I can remember hating being husky and tough skins. I hated how I looked. I hated my hair. I hated my clothes. So I stared at my white bedroom door and I said the words, "Devil, if you make me stop being fat, I'll give you my..." I said those words at about 14, somewhere around 13 and 14. And I don't remember how the idea came to me, probably from reading books or watching movies on witchcraft. But I know I had to pick somebody to give to the devil. And somehow I thought, or I knew, that it had to be somebody who I wouldn't miss. I used immature reasoning and picked a relative who I knew wasn't doing right in everybody's sight. All I did was say the words. Saying the words. Words are the essence of blessings, curses, and prayers. I didn't kill no cats or shed no blood. And in less than a month's time, they had died. I began to feel bad inside. I've since repented for all of this as soon as I gained a little bit of sense in my 30s. Now, by the time I was 16 and started Mumford, my baby fat became muscle and my ego or sense of self was in full effect. The high school I went to was featured throughout the blockbuster mega hit Beverly Hills Cop. Later I found out why. Jerry Bruckheimer was the producer. He had gone there. You see, the neighborhood we stayed in used to be, according to the elders, Granny and them, Jewish. Stevie Wonder, members of the Temps, and Four Tops, and other radio and music legends lived throughout that hood over the years. I was the paper boy for Martha Jean, the Queen radio personality, when I was an early teen. Blacks who had factory, postal, or city jobs that could afford it moved further west than on the east side where most folks came up here and settled. And they moved, and folks moved into different communities, but a lot of folks moved into the Bagley-Mumford community because it was a beautiful area and one of the few that would rent to blacks with no hassle. Funny thing is, miles away, west of Greenfield Road between Puritan and Finkel, you had the same thing. Honey and Granny TR also maintained they bought their house the same way from progressive Jews who were the only ones who would readily sell. I find it interesting beyond coincidence that those hoods were ghetto in the first place, by definition of the word. And it looks like it was no coincidence that we swapped neighborhoods physically, and we also swapped the terms for them. After all, we'd already swapped nationalities and identities. Now, there was something about that hood and the high school designated for it. Everybody likes to think of something about their neighborhood. But lots of folks wanted fame or to be stars. It was like it was in the air. and some of them manifested some degree of stardom. My contemporaries, like 1991 classmates Pizzazz and Fallah, ran the school. And they ran the school off of creativity. Pizzazz was in my creative writing class, Fallah was in my radio TV speech. But I also knew the new school luminaries at Mumford, like Swift, who would end up being Swifty from D12, who I knew and was trying to bring into a union of Detroit MCs I was trying to put together in the 12th grade. He was in the 10th when I was a senior. And then also under me was Jamel Hill of ESPN. We had creative writing class together. One of those classes where they have more than one grade in one class. She was a great writer, and a grade or two under me. And then there was Dietrich Haddon, also a contemporary. We had the same first hour class. He was a talent show star then, and he looked about the same as he does now. Some of y'all may know him from Preachers of LA or Preachers of Detroit, or one of them. And he's a contemporary gospel artist. And we should be about the same age. In my 12th grade year, I won a National Pepsi Black History Essay and got first place, $1,500. Dropping the bucket, but I was excited. My family was excited. Then I won a full academic scholarship. It was all on the news, and I was popular. The knowledge rap, pro-black, conscious hip-hop era helped me make up my mind to do the right thing, quote unquote, and go on to college. But I wanted to go to college in Detroit, where I wanted to teach English in the community where I came from. Now, despite folks' best efforts, the experience of high school doesn't prepare you well for the university, especially if you were independent-minded and popular. I stood out like a missing member of X-Clan mixed with some Kane or Rakim. So much so, in the 12th grade, they voted me class leader, and I didn't even run. But in college, it's e pluribus unum. Like a penny, you're one of many. Those that follow orders without supervision, the best, will do better. Well, I can say I must have had great teachers. And I needed them, I must have. As soon as you took them away and cut all that extra time and attention, I got lost in the sauce. I was disinterested, distracted, and disenchanted. Hey, this ain't like a different world. And I was no Dwayne Wayne about the brain. Cuffed up the scholarship. Moved over on Murray Hill with the Jacksons to stay, so I could have it my way, like Burger King. The most interesting thing about Wayne State campus to me was United Sound, where P-Funk and Zapp's classics were recorded. Now, I know what the tie was between the two. WSU is a research-based university, and in the 70s, music, mind control, and drugs were not uncommon research subjects. Perfect for P-Funk, whether it was orchestrated or organic. We can all guess who was really behind putting that situation together. So, I hid that I had lost the scholarship for as long as I could, but my mind was elsewhere. I acted like I dropped out of school to go to work. I did go to work, but it was for studio time and motel room fare. Gotten hooked to taking my girlfriends there. So sex and music became my focus, alongside my lifelong like for mystic magic and hocus pocus. Now, me and my first real DJ in high school, Inaharo, started making demos at 15 or 16 at Jerry Flynn's studio. And Inaharo focused on being a triple threat, scratching, making fresh beats and dope raps by herself. So I got another DJ, Daddy Riff, who I had study hall hour with. And we also went to Flynn's to do our recording. A lot of people did at that time, back then. I saw Kid Rock down there with his white top fade. Look it up. Grits Sandwiches for Breakfast, I believe was his first album. But anywho, so we went down to Flynn's to record. DJ Daddy Riff introduced me to his two DJ partners during this time, Lynn Swan and then DJ Dez. Now me and Dez, we hit it off famous. I think we shared an ear for soul music, which at the time I was much more immersed in because of my mom's. DJ Dez had transferred to Mumford after I was gone, and he had also went to high school in New York after living in California for a while. So he was very well-rounded, and I think we just found each other interesting. He was 2 years my junior. He was very, very knowledgeable in the art form and the culture. We exchanged knowledge. He schooled me on how to achieve the sound I always wanted. And I was already a few years deep in the newly forming circle of MCs and DJs that would soon after be known as the Detroit hip-hop community, post hip-hop shop and shelter. I was already tight with DJ LeNeice, my big bro. Besides Raheem and Dice, my partner Tony Groen produced the beat for a song I did with Bizarre, called ironically, I See Demons, my idea at the time. So he really helped to introduce me to the newly growing, I used to call them backpack crowd of Detroit MCs, and I helped to, show him the original, the old world, the way we was doing it, drum machine eras, okay? So, there was a time, Dilla and them came post that drum machine era after AWOL and all of them, which is kind of when I began. But anyhow, my grandma loved her some Dez. And I loved his granny. She called me Bigfoot. So you had to take off your shoes when you go into his house. We'd all go down there and go in the basement, listen to him scratch and make beats and different things, work on some concepts. And so she'll see my shoes off in the front entrance. And she'll say, Andy, what you got down there, Bigfoot? Both of our fathers played drums with some legends. His dad got credited for it and much more renown. And we both shared a curiosity for the supernatural based on family secrets that we heard, uncovered, and overheard. And Dez was the person who helped us in the Detroit hip-hop scene. At that time, everybody. He helped us all get off the programmed drum sounds and into the breakbeat drums and the sampling that was the sound of the day. He taught a lot of people here, as did DJ LeNeice, how to have that golden era purist hip-hop sound and not sound so local. Lost art. But Dez, me, and Riff became a group. Sometime during this time, I went in the old dude's book stash and I pulled out one that was suggested to him at one time, called The Subconscious Power. This is age 19 or 20, and a turning point for me. Now I had a new goal to achieve. So many lames know it by so many names. Finding higher consciousness, enlightenment, seeking knowledge of self. But it was witchcraft. And at the time, I only knew it as mind power. So I called it mind power, mentalism. I saw it worked, shared it with Dez. But little did I know, devils were arranging and rearranging scenarios to set it up to make it look like I was using mind power to read thoughts, project thoughts, influence others, rule women, make people ring my phone, and other lightweight jamming parlor tricks. But I didn't know that there were spirits, devils, for real. All of that was spookism, coming from a 5% Nation of Islam mindset. All of that was spookism to me. There were no ghosts, spirits, devils, or demons, other than the devils we could see in the flesh. I just thought I'd finally found something that worked. The Subconscious Power book. I thought I found the secrets to the force. Now all of this, by the way, is before age 21. This is 23 years ago, longer than some listening have been living. And that's okay, because those folks usually listen, because they know they're getting straight game, no chasing. Now, it's usually a contemporary of mine who challenges with some comment, alluding to some lack of consciousness on my part they perceive. Man, from age 14, I first found that stash of books of my old dudes and my granddaddies down there in the basement. And they both had admittedly and according to eyewitnesses conjured up a being. And they would come up out the basement and watch my grandma every day while granddaddy was going to work. So I found these books around age 14. I know I was 14 when I was reading these books. Now, subtract that from 44, when I now know much better. And that's 30 years in the study of what New Agers, philosophers, occultists, and theologians say about God, religion, and the mind. I asked the old dude when he was living, and I was still in my 20s, I was reading all things Dr. York at the time. And I asked him, Dad, what do you say the name of God is? And he told me, just above a whisper. Well, it was just us two. He said, Tetragrammaton. And he was a pagan. He showed me in his books, in his conjuring books, like the Lesser Key as well, as in some of Crowley's writings, Tetragrammaton and what it was. I learned that from Ryen at that age, at that stage. And he told me of Crowley. He said, yeah, you know what he be talking about, but be careful, messing with that stuff drives some people crazy. Now I know he was sure enough right, because little did I know then, it was slowly happening to me. I was slipping into darkness, opening up doorways, not my third eye, quote unquote. You only get two from the Most High. There was so much to explore, though, it seemed, so much promise, so much potential in going on this path into New Age, mysticism, magic, astral projection, numerology, astrology, tantric sex practices, Egyptian martial arts, contact with the Netaru of Kemet by way of meditation with the metal netter. Even my rhymes took a turn from street knowledge to a mystic Motown Mac type of character. Additional devils in truth. Adding new personas or alter egos to yourself is yet another way to not open your third eye, but to open up several doors and let in very old devils, extra-dimensional entities who have been masquerading for millennia as our gods, their idea and concept in the first place, I might add. These extra-dimensional beings, or devils, have provided us with many ways to unknowingly let them in, from culture to culture. We can go all the way back to Babylon, but you will hear things, especially some current things, that talk about voodoo and Voodoo, Shango, the other African forms that came later. And you'll hear people tell you, things like, the Haitian Revolution in 1804, the strides that the Haitians made was largely because they used voodoo, and this is why white folks villainize voodoo today. White folks don't villainize voodoo today. What are you talking about? If anything, it's a game of keep away, telling you white folks hid it from you, so you'll go looking for it. The African-style version of witchcraft. That's all. Period. It doesn't matter. On every continent you find various versions that were brought down by these extra-dimensional entities who bogart their way into this reality by fooling game goofy goobers in search of some mystical power, some way to cheat the game and get ahead of other quote-unquote human beings and be higher than them, higher consciousness, higher than who? You want a way to try to cheat the game of love. You want a way to try to cheat the game of hard work and success. You want to try to cheat the game of knowledge. And instead of reading and studying and researching, studying to show yourself to be approved, rightly dividing the real word, you'll try to get a word straight from that realm, from some devilish little helper, masquerading as your ancestor. And yeah, people use magic versus magic all the time. But it's just the devil doing a divide and conquer between two of his folks. Two sides that he controls. The Bloods and the Crips both use weapons of destruction against each other. Witchcraft is a weapon of destruction. So it can be used in warfare. It can be used to kill, maim, destroy. That's what it was brought down here for in the first place, boy. So these extra dimensional beings have provided us with buku ways to let them in knowingly and unknowingly. Now, we're not even counting knowingly yet, but because there are too few serious conjurers. And when I say serious conjurers, I mean people that really read the books and really study these things and really apply the things that are said in the books beyond just aesthetics. Folks want to look Egyptian. Folks want to have an Egyptian name, and folks want to rock an Egyptian artifact on their chain. But they don't want to get down into dealing with them netter. Which is really, that's really what it's all about, right? Reaching that level of godhood and oneness with Horus, Osiris, Ra, and being on that status, right? Elevating yourself. Folks don't even get down into that, because if you got down into that and started doing the things that the Metu suggests to get you in touch with these deities, then you will indeed open up doorways and let in these spirits, and you will see their behavior and their demeanor, their style, and you will know that it's nothing nice. You will know that they're disagreeable and that they come into your life to tear it up. They give you a little something at first. It's a bait and switch game. If you got some game about yourself, you should never fall for these things. I'm sorry. Because the same things you see, going on in the street or in the inner cities or in the game, in the dope game, in trapping, the same type of mentalities come from the same devils. It's a shared mentality. So, much like once you learn how to deal with a snake, there are there are professional snake charmers. There are people who deal with and handle snakes. There are people who deal with and handle pit bulls. Other people may be afraid of these things, but once folks, learn their habits and the things that they do, they know that they always do the same thing. It's the same thing with these extra dimensionals too. No matter what they call themselves, they may call themselves Ain't Irene, okay? But they might call themselves Oshan. Regardless, whether they say they Heru or Thoth, Tahuti, regardless, they are lying spirits, extra-dimensional entities who are trying to put you in a trick bag and jam you up, give you a little something so you can give them a lot of something. Your energy, your life force, your access into your world. And then they come in and tear that up. But because there's so few real, dedicated, if you will, or serious sorcerers and commissioned scientists and the like, these beings had to devise many ways to try to tempt, lure, seduce, and sucker you into opening up doors for them. Like the Ouija board, for example, which you could buy in a toy store. But the most common and effective ways to get you to open up the door and swing it wide is to promise you power. If you deny the power that is the Most High and the Messiah, and view yourself as your only Lord and Master. This is what a lot of us have been taught by watching things in pop culture. The pop of the culture has made sure that we learn this. Whether it be sports, whether it be wrestling, whether it be corporate America, or whether it be hip-hop music. The adversary has used these many things in pop culture to try to help to lure you into self-worship. in one way or another. The whole idea and concept of you being a star, Aleister Crowley said, we are all stars. The stars supernova and explode at some point. Once you let these things into your life, if you believe their false promise of, if you open up these doorways, open up the portals of your third eye, if you reach your higher conscience, these things will assist you or whatever, blah, blah. You're going to see how you will blow up in supernova too. And so will everything around you. Letting these things into your life as I did, because I was serious with mine. Letting these things into your life does nothing but cuff it up. And that's what it's all for, folks. So don't let nobody, and I might have to, really do gladiator battle here. But don't let nobody put together no nice, well-produced film full of lies to try to lure you right back into the same trick bag that some of us is waking up to now and climbing up out of. A lot of folks realize that we've been lied to about a lot of things. Most importantly, who we are and our spiritual role and importance here on the planet. So as we wake up, we're going to get more false information thrown at us. They're throwing everything at the wall trying to make it stick. They're trying to throw everything at you just to try to get you off of the true path. That is to follow the way of the Messiah, the way of the Most High and His Word. And to follow it, with the same reverence or more, really, reverence than you would follow something if you thought, well, hey, this is voodoo and it's what my ancestors did. And that's all I need to know. And that's, y'all don't know much about this new age stuff or this dimension stuff, and you run with it without knowing much. But yet, you'll turn to a believer and you'll question them a million questions, but never take the time yourself to try to form a relationship with the Most High and endeavor to rightly divide, understand, overstand, and understand His Word and His will. You have a relationship with Him. His will is clear. His will is not that you overtake the will of others. His will is not that you take things into your own hands and take drastic measures and take more losses than wins just in order to prove a point that you have some power. Who Yah bless, none can curse. He blesses and adds no sorrow to it. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. He wins the battles if we put Him first. And sometimes we may have to actually get on the battlefield and put in work. When He's with us, who can be against us? This has always been the thing. It's why the Panthers fell. It's why ancient Egypt fell. People thinking they can do this thing on their own. People thinking that they can fight evil on their own, or that they can reach freedom on their own and justice on their own. It is yet another way to make you point at yourself as the God, like we learned during the 5% Nation domination of hip-hop. They were dominating hip-hop. Now, what if your favorite artists were all into 5% Nation Islam? Then most likely, you as a young person listening, like me when I was a young person listening, 16, 17, when I first got turned on to Big Daddy Kane saying, I say peace to the Nation of Islam, okay, in Mortal Kombat. And I just started sounding sweet. I didn't know much about it. I just knew it was supposed to be mine. See, that plays off your pride. It's supposed to be mine, it's black, and so I want to be into that. You need to know more about it. Where did it come from? Who was Clarence 13X? Who was Elijah Muhammad?
Side effect of the drug.
Who did Elijah Muhammad get his knowledge from? White man named W. Fard Muhammad, supposedly. Wallace Dean, or whatever his name was, all types of aliases and arrest records for this cat that established really the most visibly progressive, quote-unquote, pro-black organization that it's ever been in this nation. So that should tell you something about these organizations. Look at Dr. York. Dr. York, basically teaching you voodoo, teaching you how to take the magic back because it's yours. And what was he doing? Making it look like he doing something that our ancestors, he even said the ancestors talked straight to him and gave him the game straight. When in reality, he was following the same principles that Crowley had set down, Crowleyan sex magic and pedophilia. You find out Africa Bambaataa also into pedophilia and this Africanism at the same time. Then you find out X-Clan, okay, Professor X. Brother J admitted on Star in the Morning that Professor X had cocaine problems and, had this little young runner girl that was 14 at the time, and she gave her story to Star, which, Brother J and X-Clan was on there in order to refute her story or to try to defend themselves against her allegations. But she alleged that, they had a cult-like thing going on. And at one point, she was on her knees servicing 8 members of X-Clan. Brother J had raped her a number of times. She's 14 when all this began. Professor X turned around to the sugar booger. They supposed to be snorting together at 14. And these are the people who helped to shape the conscious rap thing. Even Big Daddy Kane, he ended up in the bed with Madonna in some book, and Big Daddy Kane, we looked at him like a black superhero at that time, just about. Looks like a job for, that's why he dropped that. But he was losing that status with us by doing things like that, and then the album Prince of Darkness, where he was really trying to be a ladies' man, did a song with Barry White, all that type of stuff. We see how there's something in the morality that's lacking when folks get off into this whole Pan-African ancient Commission thing, because it lines right up with Crowley's Do As Thou Wilt. There are no rules, there are no leaders, everybody can freestyle and come up with their own ideas about it. Now, this is something I know now, I did not know as a youngster coming up, okay? I had to go through my coming of age time like everybody else. There was Spike Lee movies, it was amping up my pro-blackness that began with the pro-black conscious hip-hop, radical rap that was dominating the late 80s and the early 90s, right before gangster rap and the gangster movies came in to kind of put a silencer on or muffle the effects that controlled opposition play was having. Sometimes they'll try to do a controlled opposition play and it'll go further than they mean for it to. So they wanted to try to dampen those effects. Okay, they wanted us mad, they wanted us hot. They knew they was gonna do the Rodney King thing. They knew they was gonna do the OJ thing. Okay, they knew that they was gonna ramp up this whole fuck the police energy that was going on. Okay, NWA had that song, and then within 3 years, the LA riots exploded. So there was a plot and a plan to amp us up, heat us up, much like in Do the Right Thing, Long Hot Summer. And, they slowly and methodically allowed for things to boil and stew. Okay, they got us to a point of consciousness and black rage, and then bam, they hit us with the gangster. Boys in the Hood, which I thought was good. Menace, I didn't think was as good because it seemed like it was trying to piggyback off the popularity of Boys in the Hood more so than off of, having a deep message and meaning like it seemed Boys in the Hood had to me as a young man then. But, I saw there was a degradation going on. Okay, I went and saw Menace. I saw Boys in the Hood, but then South Central came out. South Central was the first movie I believe I've ever walked out on. I started to see that the things that was aiming at us and at our people, and it's the same thing with voodoo and commission science and Pan-Africanism. The things that they aim at us, and the people that the black people that they put in front of us to present these things to us, from Oprah to Kwesi and Puma, they pay these people. These people are on the payroll, and these people knowingly are giving us something that they know is going to jam us up. It's like selling snake oil too. You know, they keep you buying stuff and buying copper bracelets and all type of stuff, and at the end of the day, you're in no greater position than anybody else that's around you. I know people that's been studying these sciences for 20 years, and they still not nowhere. I'm sorry. Not even in their mind. You should at least have peace of mind, okay? If you're supposed to reach this higher consciousness. But folks that deal with that are some of the most troubled people that I know. In one way, shape, or form. Because they have slipped into do as thou wilt without even realizing. And once you slip into do as thou wilt, you are making the pact, or you're making the covenant or contract with those extra dimensional beings subconsciously. And you're constantly letting them in. Because you're constantly giving them the impression that you believe you are the only higher power. And they know they can get past you. Okay? So by you vibrating out that frequency all the time, that you believe that you are God, and really you don't bow down to nothing higher than you, by you always vibrating out that frequency, you're always keeping the doorways open for extra dimensionals to come in and tear up your life. Sucker. And really it happens in everyday life. We talk about it a lot in music. Because musicians are inspired people. Writers are inspired people. Even the historians who write history, they're inspired by something. There's a point to be proven. There's some plateau they're trying to reach. Or there's some agenda they're trying to teach. It's the same for the musician. It doesn't matter what form of music. It's about the spirit of the person behind it. People ask me, well, what about instrumentals or classics or jazz? It's about the spirit. Oftentimes you can know it by the title. You've said it before, Mr. Magic. Summer Madness, Winter Sadness, Nautilus, and many other examples. But in classical music, you even have what they call the Devil's Chord, which was outlawed by the church. I believe it was the 15th century. My sister told me about it. They had to study about it in MSU. She majored in music and math. She was asking me, was I familiar with the Devil's Chord? I knew I had read about it in the Sacred Songs book. I was so proudly held up in that picture. But I'd forgotten the details, and she was to tell me more about it. Yes, classical music. A lot of the classical composers, if you read their stories, they were into spiritism and the Pythagorean view of music. That music was a mystical force. And many of them were trying to move you. They call them movements in classical. They were trying to move you. The spirits that inspired them to attempt to try to move you into one direction or another direction, one mood or another mood. So it doesn't matter what form of music. It's the spirit of the person behind it. So then using that as a template, then any form of music can be turned into music to praise the Most High. I know my man Dwight hates the devil and is angry with the wicked every day and bows down to the Most High. I know this. So, the energy and the spirit in his beats, even when they're hard, it doesn't carry that demonic energy. It's about who is your master, and that is who inspires us here in the physical realm from the spiritual realm where everything begins. And not everybody's not in the same stage of developing the relationship with the Father. I remember I got invited down to Atlanta after I met Wacko. from New Orleans, down with Juvenile and Skip, UTP. He was on a No Lid Clap rap. And I met him at my man Gino XO studio, Gino XO, over off Curtis, while I was making my SWS audiomentary, the first thing I ever put on YouTube. Well, the first project I ever put on YouTube. I believe it was 2011, 2012. And yeah, I think it was 2012. And while I was there recording, he was there recording, about to leave or something, and I didn't know him. And he happened to sit in on my session while I was talking. And, I know that he fears the Most High, the way you're supposed to, with that reverence that is fear. That fear that is reverence, rather. Not that fear that is false evidence appearing real, okay? But that righteous reverence. And he had it in spades. But something I was saying during that audiomentary, which YouTube butchered, because I actually was playing the music. It was supposed to sound like a radio show. And I was like the DJ. So I played the actual records that I was talking about in the Songwriter's Secret. But that's before I came up with that's before the Most High gave me the way to try to sneak some video past. But anyway, when I came out the booth, he struck a conversation with me. And he was very adamant about it. He wanted somebody to pray over his studio, over his new studio he was building. And, he basically wanted like a minister on his team. And that's how we got to be friends and close. And he ended up eventually, through our relationship and me trying to minister to him. And this helped to get him off and away from some things that he wanted to get away from. Mistakes he had made when he was young and first got into the gang. And so I said it to say, we don't know the mindset and the heart of these entertainers who are inspired. And we don't know at what moment they get their epiphany or at what moment they wake up and realize that they've been deceived. We don't know. But it has to happen at some point to everybody. Some folks ignore it and some folks explore it. Like I say, about the Messiah. Some folks want to claim him and some folks just want to defame him. But some folks will ignore that and some folks will explore that. And he was trying to explore it and deal with it. And that's what I have to think about. That was one person I got to meet, and become close to, that I hadn't grown up with or nothing like that. And that was in that world. And so I have to apply, God is no respecter of persons. If he could do that for Wacko and with Wacko at that time, I haven't spoken to him in some time. I don't know where he is today. I just pray that he, has continued on his walk. But, and his relationship with the Lord has gotten better, I pray. But, we have to give everybody that type of benefit of the doubt, for lack of a better word. Okay, because folks don't get into this business. It's like I was telling my story to show you how, several things, but how I came to be, but also how folks, that's in this business that we talk about, get into this business. And how, you get so deep and so far into it and you have so many roots into it that, first of all, you're not looking for this Illuminati stuff to spring up, but when it does, some folks don't know how to respond. And they keep going on. But, and the time I spent making music, I don't regret, although I saw, when this epiphany happened to me, I saw I had to stop. Because I saw that there was no way to get to where I wanted to get. It didn't offer me the real freedom and independence and liberty that I thought it would offer me. I didn't want to be nobody's slave. I didn't want to have to do records and things. More importantly, I didn't have to do things that they would have you do. And, I've said it before, it's partially because of proof, mostly because of proof that some folks in Detroit knew that what John Todd was saying, he wasn't playing. proof backed up his story with the 13th floor story. And getting off the elevator and being asked to do the ritual over the master tape. And then, subsequently, when he was trying to, tell it to the world, he was putting together a movie. It was him and her brother that went to Mumford. Lord have mercy, his name escapes me now. Dogmatic. But they were putting together the documentary, a movie. Regular action, scripted movie called The Devil Made Me Do It. And my man Falah had invited me down there to the set as, to be one of his goons in a scene. He was starring in the movie. And, I was on the set and everything. I had known proof before that and after that. And of course, he was doing a cameo in the movie, but he was behind the movie. And it was about two rival rappers, going at each other, trying to use magic versus magic. Basically, that was the bottom line, over this chain. Okay, this chain has some kind of magic power. And, they were both trying to take each other out, basically, using the spirits. And so, I learned so much during that time about mysticism and the truth behind it, and which eventually led me to learning about the Messiah and the truth behind him. But, I also learned so much about music. Music is not an evil thing. I still love music. I have to give thanks to Jerry Flynn allowed for us to stay down in the studio for hours. Sometimes I would stay for days. Seriously. Take a little change of clothes or something, and, just because, he had that old school Motown philosophy of, put a bunch of producers in there and let folks go for what they know, and whoever come up with something, that's what we're dealing with. And, so I would always wait for my turn. But during that time period, he had made the Alcove Cops and got on Jerry Springer's show and all of that stuff. It was a gimmick about crooked cops who was rapping, who was gangster rapping, okay? And, it was such a gimmick that it got attention from the news, and it even got him on Jerry Springer's show. But during that time, he was making a lot of live music, because I think The Chronic was out. And so he wanted that funkadelic, that live, that 70s funk sound with real instruments, with the real bass. And so he had a well-known triple threat musician down there named Greg C. Brown. Triple threat because he could sing like Luther, he could play bass like Larry Graham, and he could tear up the actual guitar, like Jimi Hendrix or something. And he was raised in the church, and he was really out of place down there in the gangster rap studio, as was I, low key. I fit in. I wasn't supposed to be there no more than he was. And we kind of bonded. Greg, he didn't charge us like he did other people, and sometimes he didn't charge us at all. But Greg played on our demo. They got all the attention, in the little Detroit hip-hop community. It got us in there, got us in the conversations, with who was the sweetest in the city at the time. Folks gave me my dap and my respect. I remember being outside the hip-hop shop, and Dez introduced me to Jay Dilla. I was like, yeah, this is my man that made that 3-card Molly. And he was like, wow. He was like, man, that is dope. I remember Billy T, the number one hip-hop DJ here, and said it was the best demo he'd ever heard from Detroit. And he'd been around since the beginnings, okay? Mercer Samir and all of them. But I say all of that to say, Brother Greg, when I jammed myself up into being homeless, he and his mother, God rest her soul, fed me. Okay? And he was a good guy. So, it's a lot of people who are in this music game, who don't, at least at one time, who don't know nothing about the other side of the game. I think the one reason that the Most High is allowing for so much to be revealed now, and so many people are being so open, like Lil Uzi Vert, getting a Marilyn Manson chain, and then Marilyn Manson commenting on it and showing a picture of it on his Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and then saying Lucifer rising. Okay, and Lil Uzi Vert replies back with fire emojis. So, you know, nowadays is not as much of an excuse for anybody, because the information is out there. But, you know, when we're talking about the old school and stuff, and we do our songwriter secret exposés, I gotta also think about Greg. And, you know, how, you know, he was just a musician, trying to make use of his talent, trying to make a living out of what God had given. And, you know, there's an outlet for that. Unfortunately, that outlet is very sick. That outlet has been provided for us by Lucifer. We have to create our own outlets. And sometimes we have to use their platforms, you know, turn those into tools to aid in the mission of the Most High, you know, as best we can, for as long as we can. And I think that's what some folks think that they're doing. And what they think is a little compromise, you and I can sit back and look back at them, and, you know, in our mind, that's a great compromise. Wearing a dress and kissing a man in the mouth, all that type of stuff, and even worse. That's a huge compromise. Perhaps for some of those guys, you know, because that's such a big stretch or leap for them. But, you know, we have to pray for them, keep them in prayer, and just kind of think about these people as our brothers and sisters, you know. And that's why I look back, and I have to remember these things, and I have to let you know, you know, I can't just count on you to go back and look at old videos and try to see my history and my pedigree. You know, I have to kind of let you know, and you know, I have to remember that, you know, a lot of people helped me get here. If not for Greg, C. Brown, and DJ Dez, our project wouldn't have had the sound impact that it did. And 20 years later, sonically speaking, it's still dope, just not up to today's digital standards of sound quality. But what it shows me is that that was a very significant time in my development, on so many levels. And in the midst of that time, and all of its significance, I didn't see how significant it was, and I didn't see, you know, all of the devils that were in the midst of me. And so, you know, not for the grace of God, there go I. And at any given time, you know, you get to look at yourself and, you know, wonder, where are you going? Where are you? What's in the midst of you? And yes, this is therapeutic for me, as it is for you. But most importantly, you know, like I said, I'm showing you how I got here, where I came from, and how I know what little I may seem to know presently. It was all His will. It was all His will. You know, I had some influences, you know, that by His will and grace, He only allowed for me to glean what He wanted me to glean from them. You know, Africa, Ambata, Elisha, Muhammad, Dr. York, some of the most influential black leaders of our time. And they've all been outed as confused deceivers who played off the naivety of the young. Each one. And their appeal peaked with Generation X, my generation. X, the unknown. We didn't know who we were, looking for an identity. And so they aimed things at us to help to shape the identity that they wanted us to take. Those young enough to be my sons or daughters, 13 years my junior or more, our Generation Y, they are asking why, questioning everything, which will work together for the good eventually. Now their sons and daughters, my grandchildren's ages, they would be called Generation Z. That's the end of the alphabet last time I checked. So the things they are setting up now, the controlled ops, the gay rappers with outward Luciferian tendencies like Lil Uzi Vert and the rest, Yachty and you know, Triple X, the whole nine, they are all designed for the end time. To end your mind, end your grind and end your divine. To do you in by causing you to let in, by hook or by crook, knowingly or no, the enemies of your soul, and they take whatever form is most pleasing to your eyes to seduce you, like Horus did for Crowley, and like Heru did for Dr. York. I had a dream where Semyaze came in a form attractive to me. I did not know who it was. I just saw this anime attracted, almost like unreal. The beauty and the shape. And it was laying on the grass on her side. And I think I was sitting on the grass, I was standing. I was like, what is your name? I said, Semyaze. And I remembered that. I woke up and wrote it down. Ran it by my man Kwabena, who was studying the Hebrew Israelite science at the time, and it was like, Semyaze, that's the companion of Azazel. I had never heard that word before in my life. So these things are real, and they can come in different forms. They know what form is pleasing to you because they can access the base thoughts of your mind. That's where mind reading comes from, and that's also where psychics and astrologers get any ability to ever be right, because they're being told something by a spirit that's coming in another form to them. They believe, it could be a guardian angel, or it's an ancestor, whatever the case may be. They can come in whatever form is attractive to you, where you are at. And they can transfer thought and read thought. And I've experienced that as well in the testimony that I'm going to refer you to, rather than say again, because I've said it in 2 or 3 videos now, but where, I was talking about over the phone, and an extra-dimensional entity came through them. It growled, which was audibly in the room around me, but it spoke to me. And when it spoke to me, that was not audible out in the air. It spoke to me directly in my head. It said, fear me. Wicked voice like that. So, and again, these are things that I did not believe in. I came from a background where all of that was spookism. Okay? The only magic that was supposed to really exist was black magic, the magic of black folks, that white folks was hiding from us in their books. And what it really is the magic of the fallen angels that was taught to the original civilizations, or the first civilizations or cultures that had power and influence worldwide. Babylon, Egypt, Sumer, not in that order. Greece and Rome. So they still do the same today for us Americans, stuck in this American way. And that is the way of the forefathers, the founding fathers of this land, this nation, who studied those ancient ways and techniques that they knew came from the fallen angels, and they're passing them on to us.
the igniter to the lighter, take us higher as we admire you. In the essence of your presence, surrounded by your excellence, confounded by benevolence, take away any irrelevant elements that dwells within, like sin. Please, get the hell out of what we put hell in. We want you to dwell in us. Fall like a bowling ball in a paper bag. Break us till we let go of everything we had, what we thought was good and what we knew was bad. All-consuming fire, send your mighty Russian wind and cloven tongue. Let your kingdom come, your will be done. Take our breath away right out of our lungs and breathe in us again. As we receive your love again, baptize us in fire that burns our sin off, not our skin off. The world tries to wipe our grin off, but you still send us for the send-off. And we stand cleansed off, perfect and blemish-free, worshiping our King in spirit and in truth, truth and in spirit. Fill with eyes see, fill with ears, let them hear it. The time is near, it's now than it was ever. Just like you can see the signs of the weather, see the signs of Jehovah's return. I pray we learn to yearn you, discern the worms from you, learn the word from you. So let your fire fall, like Elijah making the call. I put myself on the altar, my mind and thoughts. Mine, my thoughts, they were mine, I thought. But I am the sacrifice brought, consume me. So let your fire fall, and let it keep falling, until it fills us all. Let it keep falling, fall like Saul, get up this fall. Keep falling till we're changed into likeness. Shine you in his brightness, walk in love, peace, and kindness. Jesus, let your fire fall.
I want to thank you all for bearing with me throughout my story. And I hope we're better acquainted now. Nice to meet you. You can write me, let me know a little bit about yourself if you feel so inclined. But what I wanted to highlight right here is those who have been with the channel for some time and who have taken the heed, or who have heeded the call to put their hands to the plow. We need all hands to the plow right now. And so some folks have actually gotten active and come up with things that they can do to try to better their community in the spirit of the true and living. And I want to shout out Sister Nikki Marie, Sister Minister Nikki Marie, and also continue prayers for her and for her family, for her husband, my brother Mike. What's going on, Mike? And I also wanted to shout out Sister Erin, not your average, because her daughter Dixie was actually the first person I saw have an idea along this line, and it also took off and was for charity. And Sister Erin, if you're listening, if you could send me that information again so I can find it easily, I'll pass that on to the people as well. But also another member of our family here, Sister Lady Soul, she has taken it upon herself and come up with the Father has given her an idea of a way that she can help give back to the community, help to brighten some lives, and use her God-given talents to help to hopefully promote healing and joy and peace in somebody's life in any way that she can. And so she came up with this idea, and I wanted to show you the flyer for it, and trying to find another way to incorporate it into the video, but I just could not. But I'm just gonna have to read it. Greetings, family and friends. Looking for a way to give back? You want to help brighten a child's day? The answer should be yes. Then consider becoming a yarn sponsor. Please join me in supporting local and national charities requesting crocheted items. And yes, the temple is going to support this cause. I know is a good cause, and Lady Soul I know is a good woman of Yah. So there are 3 ways to donate. Yarn, of course, the material necessary to crochet the items. Gift cards from various craft stores, to help provide the necessary materials outside of yarn. And PayPal, and there's our PayPal address, paypal.me/newcreationcrochet. And then there is an address where you can send yarn directly. Okay, I know she's for real, and a good sister and talented. And you can ask her any questions or see examples of her work. There's contact information there on your screen, email and phone number. And so I would like for all of those who are so inclined and who want to put their hands to the plow too, somehow, to go ahead and support things around your own community, okay, but support our brothers and sisters here in this community when they come up with ways to try to help, okay? And with that being said, I'm gonna let everybody go. Oh, and I want to apologize. On my birthday, I got a message from somebody through and it was a viewer's name, a subscriber's name that I recognized, a dude, and it was from what's the name of that thing? Lord have mercy, Norpia. And it said such and such has sent you a message. In order to retrieve it, I mean, I guess it said the same thing to y'all that it said to me initially. In order to retrieve it, sign in, blah blah blah. So I signed in, and I, should not have signed in. I should have looked more into it. But like I said, this was a name I was familiar with, and I really thought that they had a message for me. But I believe that that's how that company generates traffic, by playing that little game. And so you go ahead and you put your information in there, and bam, all your contacts get sent a lie, basically saying so-and-so has a message for you, just to try to draw them into that same thing. So I apologize. Anybody got something from Zorpia, basically a spam and a mistake on my end. And again, if you have ideas and if you have things that you're doing in your community and you would like for us to share that with the community here and the family here, please do contact me. You know how to do so. brothermentheo@gmail.com or unplugem@gmail.com. The information is also here on this video, and it should be in the description as well. And I want to thank you all in advance because these are perilous times, but these are times when it appears that the secular world is coming more together, and unfortunately the body of Christ still has a lot to do to keep itself from falling apart. So let's try to do our part wherever we can, however we can. And I appreciate those who support this ministry in any way that they can, through prayers, through love, through seeds of support. I thank you, because without you there would be no us. And I appreciate you all. Thank you again for your time. We'll be back with more hardcore, to the floor, Jesus versus Horus. Throwing heavy blows on this one. Shalom.